Why do some people manage to lose weight while others struggle endlessly? The answer isn't willpower, it's habits. That's exactly what I want to talk about today. How to build weight loss that happens almost automatically. When you're trying to change something like your weight, the most important thing to examine is your habits. In other words, what do you do without even thinking about it, automatically? Take organ donation as an example. There are massive differences between countries. In Denmark, only about 4% of people are registered donors, compared to 89% in Sweden. What explains such a gap? It's not that Danes are less caring. The difference is that in Denmark, you have to actively opt in to become a donor after death. In Sweden, it's the opposite. You're a donor by default unless you specifically choose not to be. The same logic applies to free trials and subscription services. You sign up, hand over your card details, and keep getting charged every month until you actively cancel. It's far more profitable for a company to make ongoing billing the default than to rely on people repeatedly choosing to buy. Everything comes down to what happens automatically when nobody takes action. And people have inertia. Something already in motion tends to stay in motion, and something at rest is hard to get moving. That's the power of the default setting. The same is true for weight. The real question is your default set to lose weight or to gain it? Interestingly, in the 1940s and 1950s, the default actually leaned towards staying thin. There were even magazine ads at the time aimed at women, promoting products meant to help them gain weight, strange as that sounds today. And the difference wasn't food availability. This was post-World War II America. The economy was booming, food was abundant. People weren't dieting, weren't exercising much, gyms barely existed, and yet they stayed thin. Why? Because the default at the time was not eating constantly, which meant staying lean, unlike today's default of eating all the time. The entire structure of the eating day has been rebuilt to support this new default. Let's look at this through the lens of who, what, when, where, and how, comparing the 1970s to today. When did people eat in the 1970s? 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. That was it. If a kid asked for a snack, their mom would say it would ruin their appetite for the next meal. A late-night craving? Nothing was open, so you didn't eat. It wasn't about eating a specific amount. It was about eating at the right time, in the right place. 3 fixed meals, and it was genuinely hard to find food outside those windows because nothing was available. Compare that to today. People eat 6 or 7 times a day. A large study found that in the 1970s, people ate about 3 times daily on average. By the 2000s, that number had climbed to 6 or 7 eating occasions. In the 1970s, it was hard to get food. Today, it's hard to avoid it. That's a massive shift. Think about all the food advertising, the smells in malls, people eating everywhere, the cafeteria that's always busy, the coffee stand in the hospital lobby, donuts and cookies always within reach. Food is everywhere, at all hours. Stores stay open late, delivery exists, convenience food is everywhere, there's always somewhere to eat. The default setting of our entire environment has been completely rewired. How did people eat? In the 1970s, you ate at a table and nothing else. Today, you can eat while doing literally anything. At your desk, at your computer, listening to music, in the car, watching a game, walking. In the 1970s, eating at your desk was frowned upon. People would ask why you weren't in the cafeteria. If you were too busy to eat, you simply worked through it and skipped the meal. That was the default behavior. Who did people eat with? In the 1970s, people ate together. Today, with everyone's schedules scattered, people eat whenever they can, often alone. Eating solo at a restaurant used to seem strange. Now it's completely normal. Where did people eat? In the 1970s, only a few places were acceptable. The kitchen, the dining room, the cafeteria. In a classroom? Never. At the office? Never. Today, you can eat anywhere. walking, driving, wherever you happen to be. What did people eat? In the 1970s, natural, unprocessed food that had to be cooked properly, which took time. Today, endless convenience options, packaged, portable, shelf-stable, ultra-processed snacks, meal bars, delivery available around the clock. And why did people eat? In the 1970s, the rule was strict. You ate to satisfy hunger, full stop. Not out of boredom, not for emotional comfort. With ultra-processed food today, why do people eat something like cheese puffs that don't even fill you up? Because of the reward they trigger, a hit of pleasure completely disconnected from actual hunger. So the 1970s default left very few options available. You had to follow the who, what, when, where, and how, a real structure, with set times and set places to eat. The default was not eating. If you were far from the cafeteria, you simply didn't eat, which sharply limited both the opportunity and the desire to eat. In the 2020s, we've done a complete 180. You can eat anything, anytime, and if you choose not to, people practically make you feel guilty about it. You shouldn't skip breakfast. Then everyone wonders why obesity is such a widespread problem, when the simplest and most logical explanation is right there. People are eating constantly. Picture a work meeting back in the 1970s. You're bored out of your mind. Would you go get a cookie? You'd have to get up, leave the room, leave the building since nothing was available inside, drive somewhere, find a place that was open, buy the cookie, and drive back. Nobody would do that, even if hungry. People would wonder where on earth you'd gone. Now picture that same boring meeting today, except someone's ordered a big plate of cookies sitting right in front of you. In the 70s, it took enormous willpower to get a cookie. Today, it takes enormous willpower not to eat one. Why? Because boredom craves instant relief, and the cookie is right there, so you end up eating 2 or 3. It wasn't the person or the situation that changed, it was the default. Not eating versus eating constantly. The difference was that it had become socially acceptable, and the food was simply available. It was never about willpower, and it was never about not knowing cookies were unhealthy. And this isn't an accident. It's not your fault. Food companies have spent decades carefully convincing us that we must eat and eat and eat. Why? Because they want to sell more food. That's the core of the problem. So the number one factor here is the default setting. But there's more to building truly automatic weight loss. The second factor is structure. To create an effective structure, you need guardrails, a real plan. This is true for anything. Imagine you want to run a marathon. You could hire a coach who builds you a daily and weekly plan, telling you exactly how far to run, how fast, when to do sprints or hills, gradually building you up to race day. Or you could pick a coach who just says, run however many miles you want, whenever you want, however you want, as long as you hit your total. That's not a plan. Yet that's exactly the equivalent, in weight loss terms, of being told to simply eat fewer calories, with no guidance on how, when, where, or why. That's not a plan either. It's the same with learning math. Would you rather follow a structured lesson plan that builds your skills week by week, or just be handed a textbook and told to work through problems on your own? That's not a plan. The advice to just eat fewer calories has zero structure behind it. You don't actually know how many calories you're burning, or even how many you're eating. It depends on how food is prepared, what it's cooked with. There's no guidance on when to eat, where to eat, who to eat with, or why you're eating in the first place. It's not a plan, it's a recipe for guaranteed failure. And when people fail, they're immediately blamed for being lazy or lacking willpower, when in reality, nobody ever gave them an actual plan. To build that structure, you need guardrails. Just like in the 1970s, specific times and places to eat, with everything else off limits by default. Who should you eat with? As much as possible, eat with other people. Eating alone tends to make you wolf your food down and eat mindlessly. What should you eat? Natural, unprocessed food. Cut out the ultra-processed stuff. It doesn't actually make you feel full. When should you eat? Set specific meal times: breakfast, lunch, dinner. If you can manage just 2 meals a day, even better. Build that rule into your routine, so 2 meals becomes your new automatic default instead of 3. I've personally gotten used to skipping breakfast, so when I do eat breakfast, say on vacation, I feel so full that I naturally skip lunch. It's not a struggle, it's simply become my default. That's a huge advantage when it comes to keeping weight off. How should you eat? Slowly and thoughtfully. Know what you're eating and why. Actually savor it. Why should you eat? To satisfy real physiological hunger, not the other kinds of hunger driven by pleasure-seeking or conditioning. How much should you eat? Until you're comfortably full, not stuffed but satisfied, and stop there. Follow these simple who, what, when, where, and how rules, and you'll build a structure that actually supports lasting weight loss. The third piece is fasting. So you've got a default, you've got structure, and now you need to add fasting. In the 1970s, the key was that people simply weren't eating all the time. Sure, they ate white bread, jam, ice cream, but not continuously. The mechanism behind this is simple. When you eat, those calories, food energy, get stored under the influence of insulin. When you're not eating, insulin drops, and your body releases those stored calories instead. Eating constantly essentially tells your body to keep storing fat non-stop. It's only when you stop eating, when you fast, that your body actually gets the chance to burn through those reserves. This isn't a new idea. It's been around for thousands of years. And yet, organizations like the American Heart Association have tried to claim that not eating is somehow dangerous for your heart, suggesting it could raise certain risks by over 90%. That claim simply wasn't accurate. The idea that a practice humans have followed for millennia would suddenly kill us is absurd. That so-called study, which got widespread media coverage, seemed mainly aimed at pushing people to eat more. Even though the biggest health issue in America today is obesity. It makes no sense. So those are the keys to successful weight loss. It has to be automatic. You need the right default. You need real structure. And you need to fast. Thanks for watching, everyone.